Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 4 of Wildcat Wisdom. The Chicago Wildcats are now 3-1 on a 3-game winning streak. Khalil, this team is very underrated in the league, but we are on fire.
Wildcat Wisdom, we have arrived 3-1, a big win in London. I'm so excited right now, Ben.
Oh, I am too. I mean, to go over across the ocean to London, and to put a beating on like we did, it's absolutely phenomenal. The coaching staff, absolutely brilliant game plan this week. Let's get right into the game. So it was 3-0, and we both had said last week that it was going to be a blowout, and it didn't look like it at
first.
More
than me. More than me, by the
way. So at the beginning of the second quarter, over the middle, E.T. King hits Davius Reed for the touchdown. Great play.
Yeah, we saw that Greg Soto offense in total form in London. Listen, his whole thing is get everyone involved, get more people involved. There you go. We saw Reed getting the ball in the end zone for a touchdown.
And later in the second quarter, wide open, no one even close to Ash Odom, and he walked easily in for the 1-yard touchdown reception.
This was a drive that had Odom has like the main focus, both rushing the ball and receiving the ball. So Odom wide open, like you said, on the right side for the easy touchdown.
Yeah, and Odom was another focus. And then Ryan Yosef here makes an amazing interception. Then watch this. Not one spin, but 2 spins, dekes out 2 defenders, and gets them to the 31-yard line.
The bugaboo of our defense has been the secondary. This was the game that the secondary arrived and came to play in London.
Yeah, and 14-3. If London scores on this drive, it's a one-score game, but makes a big play. Another great play by Ryan Yosef really changes the momentum. Later on this drive, Chicago clicking again. E.T. King on 1st and 10. He's going to step up in the pocket, fire to the right-hand corner to the end zone, and hit Corey Carter for the 18-yard touchdown.
I say it every single week. E.T. King with his agility to step into the pocket, throw it. Corey had some room in front of him and around him. It was just him, Corey Carter, touchdown, and we're up 21-3 at this point.
Yeah, and E.T. King had a magnificent day. Before we go to the third, I mean, I don't know if he had a perfect passer rating, but he was very close. 15 for 18, 4 touchdowns, and over 171 yards. Then at the first drive of the third quarter, hands it off Ash Odom for the 1-yard touchdown.
You saw a lot from Ash Odom. We also saw a lot of carries from Mikey and Pro to the fullback position too. So offensively, you're starting to see both running backs and the fullback kind of get more involved in the offense, especially Ash Odom these last 2 weeks, really taking over the reins of the offense, being the main guy.
Yeah, almost 200 yards last week, 150-plus yards this week. What a play by Greg Soto here. I mean, you brought him in as the offensive coordinator, but he's a great receiver also. Leaps in front of the defender to catch the touchdown pass.
Listen, Greg Soto's made an impact since he made the team at a touchdown last week, touchdown this week. And by this point, 35-10, Fat Lady was singing at this point in the game.
Yeah, London just did not have it in this game, and they struggled throughout. And here's the last highlight here. Late in the fourth quarter, Clint Hendershot makes a diving interception, and that would essentially seal the game as the Wildcats are going to win 40-13.
Hendershot continues to be an anchor on that defense with the turnover. And I said it in our chat, how the secondary and the linebacking core really came to play and and not just individuals. I think as a unit, those guys were the MVPs of the game.
Yeah, and I don't think we have given enough credit. We haven't really talked about these linebackers a lot in the last 3 weeks, but this game they combined for 14 tackles, had an interception. They were all over the place this week.
Yeah, and if you look at the numbers here, Buddy Blaze 10 tackles. I say it every week. E.T. King 15 of 18, 171 yards. He's not putting up big numbers, but you know what? He's getting the job done. He's making the correct pass, the right read, the right time. And Ash Odom, what else can you say? 24 carries, 153 yards. He had some catches out of the backfield as well. Offensively, I feel like Greg Soto has things running really, really well right now.
Yeah, and, we've said it the last 3 weeks. E.T. King, all he has to do is make throws that he can make. Nothing downfield. He didn't really force anything downfield. And you saw no interceptions. And the defense was ball hawking again. They got pressure to the QB. London, a disaster of a game for them. McLean had a solid, I get almost 300 yards, but throwing 3 interceptions. Merrill, this defensive line continues to not allow big rushing yards. I mean, only 54 yards from Merrill. Vin Kalia had a good game, though. 7 receptions, 127 yards. And Davidson, the defensive tackle, had 2 sacks. The one thing I saw in this game was the offensive line. I mean, the first week of the season, the offensive line was terrible, and we called them out for it. Since then, they have been a force up front, giving Odom, holes to go through to get in the open field so he can make his moves, and then protecting E.T. King all day long and having enough time to find his open receiver.
And if you look at the stats, it's the tale of 2 teams. You have a team, in our team, Chicago, balance, run, pass, and kind of keeps the defense off kilter a little bit. You look at London, only 54 yards from Merrill rushing the ball, which puts pressure on Angus to make throws, which puts the defense able to kind of pin the ears back, go after the quarterback. A lot of these yards, too, from Angus came late. So 25 or 34 through 98, that's good, but it came very late in the game when he drove down the field and scored a late touchdown.
Yeah, so London will have a tough task next week coming to Denver 3-1. They're 0-4 now. I'm sorry to say, but it would take a miracle for them to make the playoffs. I really don't think they're going to make it to the playoffs. I mean, I think their season's essentially over, even though we're 4 games in. Obviously, I think they found their new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. So we were a bit shocked that it came so quickly after the game. But I think some new leadership, not leadership, but new kind of coaching style on that team might help them end the season on a good note.
Yeah, you get some new blood. And like you said, for this season, I think they're not just playing for pride. I think these moves were more so not for now, but for next season, and trying to kind of build something for next year. Right now, it's just trying to get acclimated to new schemes and kind of a play for pride so they can get some wins on their ledger.
And we're at home next week, back at the Thunderdome, and a big matchup against the defending champions, Atlanta, who kind of won the game last week against Charleston. It's going to be a great game to watch because we have a chance to go to 4-1, which would be quite amazing for this team, especially where they were last year. I mean, this team is what we've heard is just far better, and the chemistry on this team is phenomenal.
Yeah, and not just go to 4-1, but go 4-1 and defeat the defending champions. So that's also what we're playing for too. They're the team with the bullseye in their back. We're going after them when we play them at the Thunderdome at home.
All right, before we go to the league schedule and the games, did you have a game that surprised you this week?
I had 2 surprises. I have Carolina 18, Portland 15. That was the best game of the week. My womp game of the week, Florida Houston, 11 total turnovers in that game between both teams. So I have a game of the week, and from now on, I'll have my womp game of the week.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, the first game of the week, Jacksonville versus Arizona. Arizona has caught fire this last couple of weeks. Now 3-1. Actually, Jackson is leading the league in QBR at 114.7. She's on fire. DJ Moses II running the ball well. They're cooking on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Grayson Willis and Ken Gossett, 9 catches apiece. I feel like for us, for Chicago, this might be our biggest competition going forward in the SFL.
And the game you called your womp game of the week, Alaska and Houston. Alaska winning, not Alaska, Florida Storm winning 27-21. I watched this game. It was probably one of the worst quarterback performances you could see in a game by both quarterbacks. I mean, it's 11 combined interceptions. I bet you one of these teams is thinking they're lucky they got out of this game with a win. Yeah,
thank God for J.W. Doyle and his 2 touchdowns. But this, and I think we spoke during this game. This game was tough to watch with all the turnovers. Just bad quarterback play all around in this one.
And the next game after this, St. Louis Gladiators beating Tulsa 20-3. St. Louis defense, I know they gave up a lot of points against us last week, but they're legit. I mean, they only held us to about 6 points in the first half last week, and they were making it hard for E.T. King to throw the ball. This week, they only allowed Tulsa 3 points, especially keeping Gabriel Manning not down, not keeping this. He's been catching over 100 yards every game this year. Stopping that, it's a good job by that defense.
Gabriel Manning, my sworn enemy. The Gladiators, just 258 yards allowed total offense. Carol Martinez, 133 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So it was a good game all around for St. Louis. And defensively, they kind of came to play, and Tulsa just could not do anything against them.
The next game, Fort Worth getting a victory, Lone Star getting a victory over Fort Worth in a Texas rivalry, winning 23-10. Anything you saw in this game that surprised you?
Well, Lone Star won, but they just had 261 yards total offense. Usually when you have under 300 yards offense, let's put it under 300, you're not going to win. They had 261 and they were still able to kind of gut out a big win in a showdown in Texas.
This next game was my game of the week. Baltimore beating Denver 27-24 to knock off one of the only 2 undefeated teams that were left after week 3. It was a great game all around, back and forth. Every you can ask for in a great game. Baltimore coming out victorious in the end.
Mike Dassel, 377 yards and 3 touchdowns. Talking about 260 in offense, 428 on total offense for Baltimore. They pick a big win. Denver no longer undefeated.
And then obviously our game, we beat London 40-13. Louisiana was also another undefeated team, losing to Mexico City 37-21. That Mexico team is very legit. Mike Daggs is just a great tight end. And there's a lot, as Cam said the other night, Commissioner Irvine, there's a lot of parity in this league because there's no undefeated teams, and it's basically just 3-1 teams now fighting for that top seed.
Yeah, in this game, I know we talked about this last week, how Phoenix Jones from Mexico City really need to step up. He had 2 touchdowns rushing the ball, not over 100 yards rushing, but those 2 touchdowns, and they need him to show up and be the number 1 back. And you might have started seeing him kind of come to that realization that I need to take over. So he had 2 touchdowns to win.
And this was your game of the week. Carolina beating Portland 18-15. Another heartbreaking loss for Portland, who has not won a game yet, but they've been close a couple times, and I sense that win coming in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, the score kind of misleading. It's 18-15 doesn't seem like it's offensive, but 393 passing yards for Richardson. It just seemed like it's my kind of game. It seemed like there was a lot of yards, but it still seemed defensive at the same time. So I enjoy watching this game because it just seemed like 2 teams just kind of struggling. They would get the ball down the field and then somehow make a mistake and have to punt. It was just kind of this back and forth kind of tug and pull game.
In the next game, Sussex Falls getting back on track this week, improving to 3-1, beating a very good Las Vegas team 27-19.
Colin Hart, 186 yards on the ground, and they win despite having 3 turnovers, which, once again, you don't see a lot. Usually you have 3 turnovers, you're probably in that bottom end of probably losing the game. They're able to pull it out and get the 8-point win.
Vancouver, a great win over Queen City, 28-23, coming off another close game. Vancouver has had a lot of close games this year and have managed to win them.
We saw them in the preseason in Chicago. Tom Pepper, over 300 yards passing, and Robert Redford, not the actor, the running back, 137 yards and a touchdown.
And the final game of the week, and our opponent next week, Atlanta beating Charleston 26-13. I know it may be not so much a lopsided score, but a big victory for Atlanta. But, Bryant Dynasty had 3 interceptions in this game. Charleston just couldn't convert on this points into turnovers into points.
I think this is the game I wanted to keep an eye on because I talk about Atlanta a lot, and I say this every week, and I said it a couple minutes ago. They're to hunt it. They're to hunt it this year, and this is a big win for Dynasty in Atlanta. 3 turnovers, like you said. I feel like going into this game against us this week, if he turns the ball over in the way that our offense has kind of been clicking, we're going to take advantage of that. Charleston had trouble taking advantage of turnovers. We will take advantage of any mistakes that Bryant Dynasty puts on the table for us.
All right, let's go to league stat leaders. Passing yards, Matt Wilson in Mexico City, 1,423 yards. And Brian Dynasty, 1 yard off him with 1,422. Tom Rahman, 1,343. Sully Richardson, who had a great game this week, 390 plus yards at 1,305 yards. And Miller from Denver rounding out the list with 1,282. Yeah, you can go ahead. Sorry.
Well, you look at, I was about to go back over to QBR too, talk about the passing. If you go to QBR, you get this league has a lot of good quarterback play. And I think this is the one thing I didn't realize before I came into the league. And you hear about certain quarterbacks, but you see it around the league on every team you have a legitimate quarterback. So look at the passing yards of QBR that you're going to talk about now. There's really good quarterback play in this league right now.
Yeah, and the top of the list is Ashley Jackson from Arizona at 114.7 QBR. And then our quarterback, E.T. King, at 107.9 QBR. He had a horrible QBR the first game, but, he's at that.
It didn't happen. It did not happen.
It did not happen.
That game didn't happen.
No, he's at that because he's I don't want to say managing the ball, but he's not forcing the ball downfield. He's making good reads, finding the open receiver better than his first game. In the past 3 games, he's done a phenomenal job so far.
He's taking what the defense is giving to him. I feel like in the first game, a lot of throws being forced downfield and trying to make things happen. I think the last 3 weeks, you've seen E.T. King kind of take what the defense is giving and be like, you know what, that's not there. I'm going to go here. Maybe I won't take the shot downfield. Maybe I'll throw it low to Ash Odom, get Varner into the game more. So I feel like you've definitely seen this really cool progression from week 1 over week 2, week 3, and into week 4 this week.
Yeah, and bringing up just the diversity of who he's throwing it to. I mean, he's not focusing on one receiver or one tight end. He's throwing the ball. He's spreading it out to every receiver, and even the running back too, and Ash Odom. And I think that's really helping him because teams won't be able to focus on just, one player. They're going to have to focus on, 5 different players. They don't know who he's really going to go to.
Yeah, even I think this game, I might have heard Shane Varner's name a couple times, but he really wasn't a focal point of the offense. That ball spread around so much this week where week in and week out, defenses will have to be like, hey, who do we focus on this week? And hope that by you shutting down one faucet, another one won't explode and go off either. So I think this has been a really good offensive kind of offensive evolution that you've seen from Chicago and Greg Soto in the last couple of weeks.
And then rounding out the list, we have T.D. Drew from Charleston at 100.1 QBR. Tyree from Sussex Falls with a 99.7 QBR. And last and 5th is Bryant Dynasty with a 98.7 QBR. Moving to rushing now. Colin Hart from Sussex Falls, 607 yards. He's really the driving force behind that offense. He has done a great job so far this year.
Yeah, I'm a fan of – listen, I like running the ball. I think running the ball sets up the pass. Mm-hmm. And I think if you don't get running game, you can't win games. You can't win championships. So I feel like, I think Corey Hart's the prime example of how he goes, Sioux Falls goes.
And then DJ Moses from Arizona with 580 yards. And our running back, Ash Odom, with 507 yards. The past 2 weeks, he's combined for over 330 yards of running the ball. I mean, a fantastic job by him.
Yeah, you're literally looking at, in my opinion, and I could be biased because he's on my team, mm-hmm. top 3 running back in the league by far right now. Not just with his speed, but his power. This week against London, he bowled. There's a couple of times he's knocked guys down and mm-hmm. probably knocked them out. So I feel like you're looking at top 3 running back in Chicago right now, and Ash Odom.
And he only has 2 touchdowns on the year rushing. But he's, like you said, if you run the ball more, it's going to open up the passing game, and that's what he's exactly done. I mean, they're creeping up on the line because they think we're going to run, and then we run a quick play action, and then Greg Soto's running down the field, and he has a touchdown. So, a really good job by this, Greg Soto himself for designing this offense and kind of, getting Ash Odom, the carries he needs to open up it for us. Swearingen with from Charleston, 506 yards. And then last is Reggie Streeter from Louisiana with 491 yards. Touchdowns, McChesney from Denver, who's done a phenomenal job running the ball this year. He had a 72-yard touchdown against Baltimore this week. He has 7 touchdowns. Swearingen from Charleston with 6 touchdowns and multiple players with 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially with the running the ball. I think, Oldham only has 2 touchdowns. You're definitely going to see that number go up going forward. And, he came close this week, but he actually caught a touchdown. So Either he gets it running or gets it receiving. It doesn't matter for Ash Odom.
Leading the league in receiving still is Gabriel Manning at 594 yards, followed by Mike Daggs with 553 yards. Falco from Atlanta with 472 yards. Grosset from Jacksonville, 449 yards, and Pratchett from Vancouver, 436 yards. And at 6th place is Chisholm from Atlanta, too. So 2 wide receivers that Chicago is definitely going to have to focus on this week in the top 10 of receiving throughout the league.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of pressure on us, especially with Falco. He had over 100 yards receiving last week as well. So the pressure going to be on the secondary that played really well this week. Our secondary played tremendous against London. It's going to be – they're going to play as good, if not better, against these stout Atlanta wide receivers.
For touchdowns, Lewis from Sussex Falls with 6 touchdowns, tied with Mike Daggs. Gabriel Manning comes in at 3rd, tied with Matthew Jr. With 5, and multiple players in the league have 4 touchdowns. Moving on to defense, the league leader still in tackles is Brody Gulch with 43. Followed by DJ Majesty, 41 tackles. Lee from Atlanta with 35 tackles. Something, this is one of the defenders Ash Odom is going to have to go up against this week. It's going to be very interesting seeing Atlanta's best linebacker going up against our running back.
Yeah, and you saw they struggled in weeks 2 and 3. Week 4, they definitely kind of got their bearings a little bit, the Atlanta defense, and played really well. Lee is going to be kind of the anchor to that defense that you're going to offensively going to look out for the entire game and see where he is at all times.
And finishing off tied for 4th in tackles is Mel Davis and Drew Hamilton at 34. Still the sack leader is Hunter Norwood from Jacksonville with 8 sacks. Sawyer also retaining his spot in 2nd in the league with 6 sacks and multiple players at 5.5 sacks.
I will put this out. I will put our defense in our front 4, me included, against any team in the league right now. I feel like, Norwood's good, Sawyer's good. Listen, we got Rivers, we got Double G on our squad. We got Stinson, we got myself. Mm-hmm. We're getting some more sacks. I'm calling it right now. We're going up to Dynasty this week. I want 3-4 sacks of Dynasty this week for our guys.
Yeah, especially for a rookie quarterback like we talked about with Javier Vasquez from St. Louis. If you guys get pressure on Brian Dynasty, who I think is a little better of a quarterback, but he's still a rookie, you're going to have to get to him, pressure him. You can't give him time in the pocket to find his receivers.
Yeah, I think this week showed something too because we only had 1 sack in the game this week, and we were still able to kind of dominate. I feel like defensively, I think what our defensive coordinator Connie kind of put together, where even if the line's not putting that pressure that we probably should on, I feel like the linebackers is playing really well. The secondary is playing extremely well. So I feel like even if we're not able to put pressure on the quarterback, I feel like our 3 linebackers and then our secondary backfield is amazing too. So, kudos not just to Greg Soto, but also to Connie Rockefeller, our defense coordinator.
Yeah, Kanye has done an excellent job this year so far, so it will be interesting to see what he does against Atlanta this week. As we move on, interceptions. Tank Bennett from Louisiana with 5 interceptions. So this is the 3rd week in a row that a different Louisiana player has led the league in interceptions. Quite the secondary they have there.
Yeah, I'm curious about what Louisiana does going forward because they're really up and down. I think the games I watched the last 2 weeks intently watching them, they're really up and down team, and the defense seems good 1 week, and the next week it kind of like falls off. The next week they rebound. So Louisiana might be one of those teams in the league that is just really up and down. But when you have the quarterback they have, they're never really down. It's just a really interesting team to watch.
Yeah, it is, and obviously they're going to have to come back from Mexico City, the loss there, and really come out this week firing on and just crushing their opponent this week. To just really make a statement. I think that's what they probably want to do, is make a statement this week. And I have no doubt Johnny Pickler is the right guy for that job, because he's such a phenomenal quarterback, and he continues to show the league why he's one of the best. Touchdowns, still multiple players tied with one. Now we move to team statistics. Offense, Denver leading the league at 1,754 yards. Atlanta with 1,719 yards. You talked about this last week. Atlanta, maybe some of the yards have come back in those come from those games where they really had to open up, the passing game to really kind of come back as they were down. But, over 80% of the yards has come from the air. So if they're kind of a one-dimensional team right now, if the defense is going to have to pick that apart this week for Chicago.
Yeah, you almost want to force them to run the ball, because if the secondary, and I said this a few minutes ago as well, if the secondary plays the way they played in London, I feel like you almost put Atlanta in a case where you have to run the ball, and they really have not run the ball if well at all this year. So I feel like the whole thing is force them to run the ball, and then listen, they want to keep throwing the ball, that's fine. But I say this all week, especially when it comes to us as well. If you get enamored with passing the ball, you become one-dimensional, and it becomes very easy to figure out what you're going to do. So I feel like it's going to be imperative on us to stop the passing game and almost force it in. But okay, if you're going to beat it, you got to be just running the ball now, not throwing.
Mm-hmm. Coming in at third is Baltimore with almost 1,700 yards. Mike Dazzo had a phenomenal game, but Ivory Irving, the wide receiver, had 18 receptions for almost 180 yards in 2 touchdowns. He was, the target they were looking for all day, and Denver just did not have, the stuff to stop him.
Yeah, I have a question for you, and I know actually, your thoughts about Denver. What do you think about Denver?
They won a championship a couple of years ago. I think if McChesney can, find his rhythm during the game, they're really tough to stop, because they have 2 rookies on that offensive line that were really, really good so far this year. So I think if they maintain that running game on the ground, they'll have a great season. But if teams can figure out how to stop that, they might have trouble. But never forget Kramer Jackson, because he'll win them a couple games with his kicking skills. Hasn't missed one in a regular season so far in his career. So,
I think he's the second best kicker compared to Rob Ems.
Yes, yeah, Rob Ems has to be the best. Yeah. Mexico City with 1,681 yards, and Arizona with 1,630 yards. Now, defense. You guys are the best defense in the league, still leading the leagues in yards allowed with 1,214 so far this year. Gave up a little bit more in the air this week, but, you countered that with not allowing anything on the run.
Yeah, I definitely credit. Listen, a lot of those yards came, like I said, at the very end, towards the end of the game.
Yep.
Especially that last drive they had before halftime as well. They kind of went on this long drive and threw the ball down the field too. Listen, defensively, I think every week has been something different. I feel like week 1 we struggled a bit defensively. I feel like week 2 definitely saw the pressure kind of ratchet up. You're starting to see the guys go off the quarterback. Week 3, you're starting to see the pressure a little bit more, linebacker better play. This week you saw the secondary kind of step up and kind of hold them down a little bit, with the exception of a couple of long plays and long drives. It's been a team effort. And like I said, Connie Rockefeller's been making the right call since week 1, and the numbers don't lie in this one.
And Fort Worth, even though they're 1-3, they're still the second, top defense in the league with yards allowed. So I think if they can kind of, convert those defensive plays into offensive scoring, then they'll be a team to watch. And we said that a couple weeks ago. Even though they're 1-3, I'm not counting them out. I'm really not. Yeah,
I feel like in this league, and I choose our words wisely, because I feel like in this league, I feel like a 1-3. I feel like if you're 0-4 at this point, it's
Yeah.
I feel like at 1-3, I feel like you still have a shot to make the playoffs, make a run. So I feel like you can't count them out completely, but I feel like this week becomes you got to get to 2-3. If you go to
Yeah.
1-4, I think your season kind of dwindles down a little bit, and then you're just playing the string at that point.
Yeah, and I think one of those teams that are 1-3 is Charleston. They've had a lot of great battles so far this year, but going to 1-4 with the skill that team has, it's going to be tough to come back. Carolina with 1,366 yards, Arizona with 1,378 yards, and finishing off the list is Las Vegas at 1,413. Moving to points per game, Mexico City, 32.75 points per game. Denver, 32.5, tied with Sussex Falls. And then Chicago with 32 points per game. Greg Soto, he made it his goal. He wants to score 30 points every game. And I trust him. He's done it so far, not the first game, but so far after that, he's done a, great job at getting us over 30 points. And I bet you Kanye Rockefeller is very happy at that.
Listen, if we could spot Kanye 30 points, like, okay, you got 30 points, just hold them. That's fine with him. So I think Greg's been doing a great job kind of spotting Kanye some points to work with the defense.
Yeah, and I think if this team on offense scores about 28 to 31 points per game, I think that's a spot you want to be at, because this defense is, allowing only 21 points per game, and it's gone down a little bit over the last 2 weeks. So if you can score that, I think the defense will be fine, and I think we'll win every game.
And don't forget special teams on our end too.
Yeah, Ron special
Hall,
teams. Yep.
Special teams MVP right now, the SFL. So listen, you have the offense, defense, and special teams just kind of running roughshod. You're good. You're going to win some games, and you're going to have a deep run, hopefully.
Yeah, and Rob Ems too he had a 50-yarder this week. Kicking the ball well. When you have your whole team, every special offense and defensive teams playing well, you're going to be hard to beat. Baltimore rounds out the list at 29.5 points per game on offense. Defense, Atlanta leading the league with only allowing 17.75 points per game. Sussex Falls, 19.5. Vancouver, 20.5. But then Chicago, 21.5. Like I said last week, if you are in the top 5 or top 10, maybe a little less, maybe top 8 for yardage in the league on both offense and defense and points, you're going to be very, very, very hard to beat.
And on defense, if you're allowing, under 23 points a game, this is an offensive league. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at Arizona at 17, look at us 21, look at Queen City at 21.5. If these, us included, these top 5 teams here, this is the offensive league, and we're shutting teams down. It's really impressive when you look at it.
Yeah, and a lot of the points the last couple of weeks, we've blown out these teams so bad that it's just our second stringers are on the field. And that's where a lot of these points, that's why we're at 21 points per game. I mean, they're just scoring touchdowns in garbage time. So,
listen, it gets the backup some time too. Get to some gameplay, and because their time's gonna come eventually. Yep. Hopefully, no one gets hurt and nothing bad happens. But their time's gonna come, so it gets some really valuable on-field time to kind of get to some experience.
And that is it for league stats. What are your keys against Atlanta this week? I know we kind of went over it, but how do you think we're going to beat them this week?
You got to stop Brian Dynasty. I feel like that's first and foremost. I feel like that's goal number one, the only imperative to stop their quarterback. You stop the quarterback, you got to shut down the wide receivers. Take the pass game out, make them run the ball, and see if they're successful at it. Because we don't know as a league if they're successful running the ball or not. Can they run the ball and score points and create some momentum running the ball? That's going to be very important. Offensively, once again, I say it every week, balance. Keep the balance going. It's a King playing really well. Ash Odom just running the ball down guys' throats, and just the spreading out of the passes and not focusing on one person. That's been what we've kind of – that's our calling card now. We got to keep that going.
My keys to the game on offense is very simple. Run the ball in time of possession. If you can keep Bryant Dynasty off the field, He's not going to get the chance to throw the ball much. You just, the time possession is very important. We're going to have to win that battle this week. I mean, you've seen it in the past in the NFL when the Patriots have played the Colts and with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and they, especially in the 2004 divisional game, where they kept Peyton Manning off the field and they beat the best offense in the league 20-3. Because what did they do? They won the time possession, and that's what Chicago's going to have to do this week to beat Atlanta. Win that time of possession, and you're going to be golden. Also, the turnover battle is key this week. If we can get turnovers and finish the drives, Charleston didn't do that last week and they lost. If we could get touchdowns, force Bryant Dynasty to throw a couple interceptions and we score off of that, it can't be field goals. It has to be touchdowns because, you can't let this team in the game. You can't let it be close. You have to dominate it on all sides, and the turnover battle is going to be key.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it, and on both sides, I feel like we can't turn the ball over at all either. Like I think we've been really good at holding onto the ball in the last couple of weeks. We have to kind of keep that going. I definitely feel like time possession, like you said, is very important. I feel like also getting Mikey into the game and get him more run also takes some of the stress off of Ash Odo. Mikey and Proto has some really good runs against London. I feel like if you can get a couple more carries out of him, take some of those carries from Ash, keep him a little more fresh.
Yep.
You're going to see even more running the ball and more time taken off the clock.
For score predictions, my score prediction this week, I am not going blowout like last week.
I'm writing it down.
No, I'm not going blowout like last week, but I'm going to say 38-24. I think Atlanta is definitely going to score, but this offense has, as we said, has been dominant. We're going to put points up on their defense and beat them 38-24.
I have one park, 38-31.
Oh, okay. That's a very close game. Yeah.
It's going to be a really close game. I was thinking 38-34, but I was like, 38-31. So 38-31, I think we pull it out.
Yeah, and bringing up last year's regular season game, Atlanta won 6-3. 6-3. So maybe
we're completely wrong.
We might be, but I think this game is going to involve a lot of offense, especially with Bryant Dynasty. And but go Chicago. We're going to win this week. We're going to improve to 4-1, definitely.
Wildcat Nation, 4-1. Let's go. We're home this week.
Let's go, everybody. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope you all have a successful week and enjoy week 5 of the SFL. Thank you very much and have a good day.